For the longest time, I have been using my free time as something that is so limited that I have to do nothing to actually enjoy it. I pick up new hobbies and drop them weeks later, just because they have now become too much of something for it to be nothing. In this series of videos, I hope to make use of my 5 to 9 after work, which would otherwise be spent doing absolutely nothing, mindless scrolling maybe, rebuild my relationship with time and free time, to be precise.
Do you ever feel like the time you have for yourself after work or school until you go to sleep is simply not enough for you to be using it to do something more meaningful? Closing my eyes and waiting for the next day to dawn without having done anything of value during the day made me feel a certain way. I would lie awake on my phone, not able to watch a movie or TV show, just because the remaining time that night felt too precious to be doing anything. So I would do nothing, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed keeping to myself and doing nothing. I enjoyed the countless hours spent on my couch or bed in between work and bedtime, scrolling mindlessly on my phone. The people who know me know that I go to sleep very late, sometimes 4 a.m., sometimes even later, and sometimes on time. At some point, it all felt wrong. I kept watching YouTube videos on how to make use of my free time, what to do on the weekend, how to do things alone. But I couldn't bring myself to actually follow them. My subconscious mind was telling me to go out, meet a friend on a weekday, but my physical self just wouldn't listen. I was frozen, not able to get up, get dressed, and leave the house. I was starting to feel uncomfortably comfortable with myself doing nothing during my free time, that I withdrew from the world. I dreaded meeting new people, but I also knew if I don't make this change for myself, I would become a mere shell of my true self. The introvertedness would transform into social anxiety, and I would start to dread meeting even the people I know and love. And that's far from what I want to do with my life. So I convinced myself to leave. I convinced myself to get dressed and leave the house. For the first time, I left the house alone with no idea of where I was going. I left behind what could have been a nothing day in the hopes of doing something. I got on a train and went to the Melbourne CBD. I had nothing to do and felt extremely awkward filming, so I sat down and just took in my surroundings. I noticed the little things around me. Families on scooters, the dance crews, people heading home after work, the little birds. I walked along alleys, went into a really cute cookie store and got myself 2 cookies. The cookies were amazing, but I didn't eat them then. I went into another store that had really cute toys and accessories, and I met my next bucket list plush. It was massive, and the eyes were just telling me to take it home. Look at them. I went to a Japanese restaurant next, one I haven't been to before, and had my meal alone. It felt extremely awkward waiting for my food with so many people behind me, but the wait was worth it. I got the chicken karaage with chips, and let me tell you, the food was great and it was a massive serving. The seasoning was just right and I enjoyed every bit of it. At this point, I was so happy and content and was patting myself in the back for having stepped out of the house today, because I wouldn't be here eating fried chicken in the middle of the city on a work day on a Monday afternoon had I not stepped out of the house. Usually, starting something sounds daunting, even the most simplest of things. If you let your mind overthink, then that's what's going to happen. You are going to overthink everything and not do something meaningful. After my meal, I went to one of my favorite dessert stores in the city and got myself a hazelnut milkshake. It was massive. I hopped back on a train and headed home. I did have to stop at the grocery store just to get a couple of groceries, and by now I was freezing, my hands were numb, but was I happy? Honestly, I don't know. I was starting to feel like the evening was a disaster and that I had lost my precious free time. But I know that these things take time. You can't magically change years of habits or thoughts in a couple of hours. I got back home and played a board game with my family before going to bed. As usual, I did not go to sleep on time, but I did do something that night. I stayed up, not because I didn't want the night to end, but because I wanted to edit the videos from the evening. Going through what I had recorded of my day, I realized how much I had done in the 3 hours I had used out of my free time. And I wanted to do it again. Now I know I can do it again. I can muster up the energy to get something out of the nothing period. And maybe you can too. If you are watching this video because you feel the same way, I hear you. I know perfectly well how uncomfortable it is wanting to do nothing when you have nothing to do but not liking doing nothing. It may sound confusing to some people, but the people who understand, they understand it. But I really hope that you start doing anything. You might realize that it's the start that's hard. Once you actually get started, you can enjoy it, and if you don't, you just stop. Don't let your mind get ahead of itself. Physically take the action first and then let your mind catch up. By the time your thoughts and your mind has caught up, you'll already be outside doing something you really love. I'll see you guys next time.